You're listening to White Noise with your host, Drip, 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 Drip.
White Noise with Drip and Khal. We're back. I'm your host, Davis, aka Drip. As always, I'm joined by Khal.
What's up?
The inventor of Black Rasslin Podcast. He's not that piece of shit CEO of Black Rasslin Entertainment, though. Fuck that guy. I can't stand that guy.
The third place of the Black Pod Connect Hollywood.
Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Give me a sec. Well, it was funny because first off, salutes to everybody who tuned in. Salutes to everybody who had a part in it. Shouts out to the A Show. Shouts out to Black Announce Table. Shouts out to us. Shouts out to Stat Guy Greg for hosting, coming up with the rules, coming up with like a lot of that format rules, everything that was all Greg with some tweaks. Shouts out to KP for all the graphics from the images you saw before to the images you saw with the questions and the cards and overlays during the show, all of that stuff. Shouts to KP. Shouts to Mimi and Drip for doing a bang up job during the trivia night. I mean, it's not that I wasn't expecting Black Announce Table to be on their game.
That's the thing. Shout out to my guys, Cody and Eve. I knew they were gonna show up to dominate. Because again, anyone who's ever listened, they know their shit. Shout out to Meals and J5. I think they had probably two of the harder categories. They had Hall of Famers. That was a tough one.
Well, it's being admittedly, and this is the problem, it being admitted like mid '90s and later guys like Hall of Famers can be.
I knew Alexander York, but it took me again like 5 extra seconds. I'm like, I can't say Terry Reynolds. That's not the name. I'm glad. And then I'm like, Alexander York, and I'm like, come on. I was like, the one I was mad about was I'm like, is it Arnold Scullin? I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong answer. Then at the end, it was like, it was Arnold Scullin. I'm like, mother piece of shit. I just became like Joe Pesci. Like,
I'm just glad my mic was on mute because there was a point. It wasn't the last question. It was. It may have been the Alexander York one. But I can't say anything because I was just gonna blurt out answers. But I thought it was going to. I'm glad that throughout the trivia we ended up being a strong second place, and it was tough competition.
Again, shout out to Mimi. She knew, again, she's said herself, she's a lapsed fan in terms of her knowledge is more within the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. She was so close with that WrestleMania 2-1.
Yeah.
For the WrestleMania on a Monday. I'm like,
I didn't know that.
I'm like, it's WrestleMania 2, but I'm like, please, we just say it early. Just pick a random number of 1 through 6. And she said WrestleMania 3. And I'm like,
when she said 3, I said, damn, it was 2. Wow.
It was so close. I'm like, I know it's 2. I'm like, but say it. I'm like, say it. So I'm like, I was trying to Charles Xavier, like, come on, Mimi, come on. Like
I do want to say this though, because we're in because of the way the final round went, we went from being second place. I had
to, because if I went to again 18 twice, we would have 36, and like Black Announce Table wasn't. I just won. I wasn't gonna guess Yokozuna no matter what, but I overthought the question in terms of
right.
It was the who's the first, not a person who's first WWE Championship.
He was looking for the definitive.
I overthought it because I still wanted to figure it out Yokozuna because I was initially like, Stone Cold won his first. I'm like, no, the Undertaker had won it prior to WrestleMania 13 because of Tuesday. I'm like, who else would it be? I'm like, John Cena. But then I'm like, oh no, but Stone Cold came that's like after. I'm like, Stone Cold's before him. So I'm like, I couldn't figure out. I'm like,
I'm glad. Well, the thing is, and I feel bad, but I don't. There was no way the white stat guy wasn't going to be doing the trivia. But I'm not good. Like I know things, but like when you're asking me right now, if you were to ask me, you could ask me a question about my life. I'll be like, like it doesn't always come to me so quickly. So, and my wife's good with that stuff, but
Did have her be my advisor.
But you know what it is? I think at the end of the day, it was fun, like
it was fun, yeah.
People got to see, we had like a tight hour of unexpected, just like fun competition. It was probably the most pro wrestling talk we've had in an hour of a Black Wrestling Podcast Live than ever. But I wanted to bring it up now because this is going to be going up on the Patreon before the show this week. We will be doing a random draw. Anybody, if you're on the Patreon, you're able to see this before it drops on the YouTube Live. You're in the drawing to.
That's the thing.
Possibly win the $200.
I got you $200. I might have embarrassed us by going for broke. But I got our patron $200. Like Eve said, I texted Eve and Cody congrats, and I said they killed, and they like Eve said it on the episode. Like he was nervous when I started getting hot in the speed round. I was like, boom. He's like, slow down, Clay Thompson.
That speed round was good.
I was like pass. When you think, yes, pass. I'm like,
I have to look.
Like, but then he was like, yeah, but people want money. People don't want a belt or tickets. They want.
He mentioned the same thing when I was talking to him on Friday. It was like he's like, we got to figure out, tickets to a show or a belt. Like $200 is $200. Like that could be a gift to yourself. That
I got bills.
That could put something on the light bill right now. So yeah, during the cold open of this week's show. One of the things we'll be doing is picking the winner of the $200 cash prize from where Mimi and Drip placed during trivia night. Now, do we want to get into? I'm surprised that
it's taking this long.
This is CM Punk in AEW
Part 1.
Part 1.
So I think what we're going to do this week is discuss the actual career. Next week, I think we'll discuss all the outside stuff, which is the fallout from the All Out Media Scrum and all the stuff that apparently was lingering within. And then maybe the stuff that like going in, they should have known what they were getting themselves into.
Got you.
But I think today it's just strictly the career of like the matches, the programs, a little bit of what came before, but just the work itself, not all the outside noise.
CM Punk in ring from last summer up until All In.
Year, Cal. It was a year. Like
it really was a year.
It was 23 matches. That's what I have the cage match right here. It's 23 matches. How fitting that he comes back. They call it the first dance, and this man finishes with 23 matches in Chicago.
He did that on purpose.
No, but this is what I mean. All right, so I had said it last week at the end of the show, but like, here at White Noise, we're dreamers, we're poets,
right?
We're romantics, we're idiots, and the world needs idiots. They need people to believe, and like you said, and there are people like you and me as well who are cynics and like, they'll never do this, and I'm so because I am such a dreamer, I get my hopes down so easily, and it's a crushing defeat and all that. But again, how fitting that this man comes back after 7 years away to his hometown. He gives the people ice cream bars. If you don't put the first All Elite image up with him and the I'm back statement, and he's but like, look at this. Like he gets to CM Punk is All Elite graphic. He gets to sit down cross-legged with the AEW version of his famous T-shirt. They give him the press statement of, I'm back. He's Michael Jordan to these people. He is, this legendary figure in professional wrestling in Chicago. Speak on it, because when this was going on last year on Black Wrestling proper, you were not a fan. I believe it's Black Wrestling Volume 3, Best of 2021. Yeah. I cut the clip of you reacting to this, and fans like, you agree he's a good wrestler, and you're like, yeah, he's all right, yeah. And fans like, you think he's good on the mic? And Cal's like, yeah, I think so. And then fans like, okay, so what's the problem, Cal? And you're like, I don't care.
That was like at the time this was summer 2021. Brian Danielson wasn't there yet, right? Because CM Punk had teased it.
the following week, I think he has the BD on his shoes, right? And then after that, he has the AC for Adam Cole on his shoes.
Right. Yeah, he was teasing everybody. But yeah, at that point, the talent, like Adam Page, was Adam Page champion?
No, Kenny Omega's champion.
Omega's champion. Oh, Kenny Omega is champion. That was the first thing. It's like, all right.
This is why you started watching AEW. You're like, Kenny Omega's champ. CM Punk came back.
But wait, hold on. This is the thing. Like Kenny Omega's not my guy, and you know, for many
you
reasons,
don't say.
Documented in the past. But you know, I can't front on him being one of the guys right now, and him as champion makes sense, especially with the way he puts on matches, his work rate, just like the physicality, like he's really going for it. Young Bucks, Lucha Bros, FTR.
They're going on around this time. It's Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros at All Out in the steel cage match. And
Sammy Guevara. This is pre-Cody Rhodes. Like, there's a lot of people who are working and trying to knock CM Punk off of that pedestal. Punk had been X amount of years out of MMA, even more years out of pro wrestling, and was just coming back. I get the love and appreciation because I've read Tony Khan said CM Punk was really like the blueprint for what he wanted. Like if he could have gotten CM Punk to start, but instead of Jericho, he would have been having CM Punk being,
and that's
what Jericho was.
More into next week
in part 2, which makes sense a lot. But even at that time, CM Punk physically was not ready to go. And the number of injuries that we will be talking about throughout this year, these 23 matches, proves that so I already seen that he wasn't going to be on par physically with them. So and a pro wrestling fan will love a nostalgia. Hell, I got Bret Hart. I got this old ass Paul Heyman with an ECW hat on. Like, I get it, but in AEW, that shit is cool up until you got to have the match. And when CM Punk has the match, it's going to be cool when he's doing the Bret Hart moves, but he has to. You still got to bang with John Moxley. They were able to pull it off at certain points. What I'm saying is, like, you got to bang with the Omegas, you got to bang with the Moxleys, you got to bang with the Dane. And I don't think in any of those matches he wrestled Penta. Come on, and I'm supposed to believe that he was going blow for blow. Come on, man, come on.
Well, that's the thing. So, like, if you put the image of him in the 3 different phases of him in the UFC, if you want to put that image up, so like again, to get to this point, what happened prior, and this will be a little bit more next week, but we have to get it started. That this man is king of the Indies, ROH World Champion, the guy, right, the wrestling internet savior.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves, goes to the show. He's a baseball fan, so it's the show, New York, Connecticut, whatever you want to call it. It's the majors. Flounders in some people's eyes. They don't believe he's really that good. Other people think he is, and that being Paul Heyman, hence the Paul Heyman guy. I was trying to streamline this a little bit. ECW champion, Money in the Bank champion, IC champ, World Tag champ, Money in the Bank champ again, World Heavyweight champ. He does all this. Finally gets his moment when he wants to leave. Money in the Bank 2011. Again, 11 years.
That's crazy.
I mean, 10 years prior to the first dance, he's in Chicago and he walks out with the title. And then he goes on his big run a few months later when he recaptures the title again and kind of has the modern day record until Roman Reigns broke that, which probably stings to him a little bit more than he would like to admit. But
Roman probably loved that shit.
But he leaves because of frustration, and we'll get in that next week. But then he goes to the UFC because it's his dream, and he's looking for a payday. I don't blame him, but he's the guy who loves MMA, and why not give it a shot? Even though he's not Brock Lesnar, he probably knew he wasn't going to succeed at that high of a level. But like, I'll take a fight or two, and then who knows what's next? And that doesn't work out at all. I mean, I don't want to put the image of him with his face bruised and battered, and you could see, like, even though he got in good shape, like, he was not meant for it. He was too old.
No, he wasn't.
He didn't have the skill set. None of it. You can't blame the guy for stepping in the cage. Like, you couldn't pay me $10 million to go fight someone in a cage. Like, so props to him for doing it, but still, like, you got to be smarter than that.
But that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, you.
But that's the thing. So he does all this, and what's he do in these prior years? I'll never come back to wrestling. He goes to WWE in terms of Fox. I'll work on your show. I'm not working for them. I'm working for the network. And that ends. He comes back to wrestling. And like you said, they wanted him from the beginning. He passes because he knows it's like this. I don't want to be on a foundation if this thing collapses after 6 months. Like, that doesn't do me any good if this thing crashes and burns at the start. I have to see this thing survive for a year. You know,
he's one of those. He's one of those guys who, when the new iPhone comes, he's like, no, I'm gonna wait for a couple of months so they get the bugs.
I'm kind of like that. Yeah,
You're a CM Punk guy. I'm just kidding.
I'm a CM Punk guy. I think we'll find out this week. But I am a CM Punk guy who sees the flaws in him. But like I said, this is all kind of set in the course. So when it gets to the actual work, like you said, he comes back, faces Darby Allin, and that he did a great thing. Like, if I was a wrestling fan now, I would root for someone like Darby Allin. Like, this, like, the outsider type figure, the skateboarder, the straight edge guy.
Right.
Then he moves on to a feud with Eddie Kingston. And the Eddie Kingston feud kind of gets it started with you're some piece of shit who's pretending to be a nice guy when everyone knows you're not a nice guy. And I'm the first guy to call you out for it. And they have a good match at Full Gear where they just try to beat the shit out of each other. Then it moves on to like the ultimate story in wrestling, which is the fan faces their idol, and MJF being a big time CM Punk fan and finally get to have multiple moments in terms of 2 matches. The match where they had to restart the match after they found out MJF cheated, and then the dog collar match. And they went on the mic numerous times. And there was that whole, like, I have a picture of you, and that meant so much to me, and it meant nothing to you. And we kind of covered it a little bit last week with MJF and 2 weeks ago with MJF and Don't Believe His Lies. But the irony is, like, isn't CM Punk the liar as well? I was almost going to think, like, to bring it back to Memento, isn't he Sandy without realizing he's Sandy?
Oh, shit. You know what I mean? Wait, so CM Punk is Sammy Jenkins. That's funny,
isn't it?
That's
I was almost gonna think. Well, I almost thought about doing this multiple ways. Like, if we started from All Out in the scrum and what's going on today with the Bucks mocking him and Kenny Omega being like, no, we're not going to do that. Then hitting the GTS, like, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah. But think about it in the context of Don't Believe His Lies with MJF, and like you said with Regal and all that, we're seeing this stuff come from a mile away. Isn't CM Punk and all this shit that's gone on backstage, haven't we seen this come from a mile away, given the Cabana podcast, given everything else and all that? But it all goes... Of course. To be honest, that's why that story works so well. It's like, he sees this guy who is him and most importantly wanted to be him, and that maybe that's why he's trying to stop him.
But I think, because you're right, I think just in the same way where everybody should have seen this MJF stuff coming, it's not hard to see that the CM Punk situation was going to end like this based off of what the past has been. But I think the difference is CM, because of CM Punk's legacy, because what CM Punk meant to pro wrestling fans was so great that if WWE threw a pay-per-view in Chicago tomorrow, there would be CM Punk. Like, he just had that aura. His legacy had that aura. So him going, I don't want to say it gave like people a reason to justify, passing some of like the less than stellar work of his in the ring, but I think it does give people rose-colored glasses. In AEW. Yeah, I think that because of his legacy from back then, when CM Punk's in AEW now, I think the people, especially that crowd, they're the children that were made from the scorn of CM Punk's situation and what made him leave the WWE. Because a lot of people left with him and they probably went to go study ROH and study New Japan and study the Bullet Club and follow what was going on there to try and find alternatives. That's why there's a whole fan base for AEW right now. Tony Khan was probably one of those people, but I digress.
And that's the whole point of the Hangman Page feud, which is the reason a guy like you is champion and a guy in a place like this exists is because a guy like me set it up to begin with. Again, that promo in Vegas, the pipe bomb, like maybe I'll go to Ring of Honor. Maybe I'll go to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then it moves on to him and Jon Moxley. And and the feud and Jon Moxley, again, it's the mirror image of like a guy who's passed over multiple times, had frustration in the workplace, hated the creative, wanted to do so much more, but had these restrictions and felt like once he left, he could finally do what he wanted to do. He can be blood and guts. He can be a deathmatch guy. But within the WWE system, much like CM Punk, I'm only allowed to do what they tell me to do, and I hate it.
Punk don't look out of place amongst all these people.
So that's what this. So these are all the pay-per-view feuds he had. Darby Allin, which is a good match. I rewatched these matches in the last day and a half.
The Punk Darby Allin match is good because Punk Darby was in there with someone that's better than him, but understands his style.
Oh no! I think the opposite. I think Darby Allin's a great wrestler that people don't give credit, but it worked in terms it's the same trope most these days with kind of these guys who come back, hang around a little bit. Is I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm trying to give it the old try. Let's see if I still got something in the tank. And that was the point with CM Punk and Darby Allin was like, he's going to wrestle a slower style. He's not going to do even though he wasn't an athletic guy to begin with.
His style was a much slower, yes.
Mm-hmm. And then him and Eddie Kingston, again, it's just like two dudes who want to fight, beat the shit out of each other. They're not fixing to have a 5-star match. It's just like there's real heat in terms of like, I'll beat the shit out of you and I don't care. And then him and MJF, it's much more, again, that like it's story, not the match. Hangman Page, it's the match, not the story, which is why like Hangman Page had to carry that man in that match. And you could see like CM Punk was so out of his depth with a guy like Hangman Page who does this consistently and has been since the company started. And even he was pretty good in the years prior, but like his work rate's impressive in AEW. And you can just see like, again, that old vet versus just young stallion. It doesn't hold up.
But look at this. And I mean, shout to you for your Photoshop, but look at this. Say what you will about Darby Allin, the wrestler. Darby Allin, his hair may be white, but he is green. You feel what I'm saying? Eddie Kingston, a legend in many circles. A lot of them don't involve like catch as catch can or chain wrestler thing. Like he's going out there to fight. And MJF, like you said earlier, they're probably a lot more similar in the fact that they're telling a great story and then they have to wrestle. And I think even outside of whatever that Eddie Kingston, I don't even remember the Eddie Kingston match, that those MJF matches were stinkers. They were much better story. And I think the problem was CM Punk isn't able to recreate that. There's not too many other people that are in AEW that can talk as well as MJF does, that he has fucking like multiple photos and images to reference from back in the day with all these songs from back in the day to connect with. And I'm seeing people who I don't even agree with on the timeline talking about what you may or may not need to know going into some storylines. Like I had to study to understand what was going on with Punk and MJF because I didn't watch a lot of Punk and ROH stuff. But regardless of all those facts, the story, you mean
the devil aspect,
the devil aspect, the vignettes going into that pay-per-view match were great. Or the
entrance himself by the Miseria Cantera by AFI, that callback, and he has the track jacket, the shorts.
It's dope. And I could see those, those 25, 28, 31-year-old white guys be like, yeah, I'm fucking badass. And then not thinking, oh shit, he's got to fight the Burberry man in a match.
But what did we talk about when we talked about MJF? And I put his version of that image. It was Cody Rhodes It was Chris Jericho. I mean, it was John Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
And
let me see if I can pull that image up.
It was CM Punk. It was all ex-WWE guys. And what did I say? They wanted to establish him with the guys who had had worldwide fame for years, decades almost.
Right.
The matches didn't matter. Like you said, were they stinkers? Not necessarily. William Regal. That's it. But like the matches, like what was the Cody Rhodes match of MJF like? Who gives a fuck?
I don't remember it.
Exactly.
I remember the feud. Sorry.
What was the Chris Jericho MJF matches like? It's Chris Jericho. No offense to my beloved Keeks, Mike Corazon, but again, it's Chris Jericho in 2022. Unless he's dialing up against Bryan Danielson or John Moxley, when he's trying to become the Lionheart, he can't do it anymore.
Yeah, they just brawling.
Him and CM Punk, you're saying those are stinkers. You're saying you're the critic. It stinks, right? You're
stinkers.
And then him and John Moxley at Full Gear, you saw it in the building, and you're like,
forgettable. I was ready to go to the bathroom to leave. Anyway, but yeah, that is very comparable. I mean, that image, this to this, yeah, it's reverse. It's reverse order. It's here's. Let's run the guy who can talk against a lot of the tried and true.
A lot of people who can talk or who have been on TV and know what to do but what do I say about MJF and the other four pillars? That's when he showed he could work. When he faced Jungle Boy, when he faced Sammy Guevara, when he faced Darby Allin, he can hang in the ring with them. So it was the double-edged sword of like this guy maybe is the prince that is promised for this company. We get to see CM Punk in AEW with his feuds. It's him versus an up-and-comer, him versus someone who he had some history with, him versus the next him versus the guy who in a way is the next John Cena for AEW, which was like this guy who the company's been building for years and years and is placing the company on its back with Hangman Page. Mm-hmm. And then it's him versus John Moxley, which is like the other guy who the company's shoulders on. It's probably down to Hangman Page, Moxley, and MJF. And I guess Britt Baker, if you wanted to add her in terms of the women aspect, but
him versus the next him is great. No, that you're right about all of that.
But you're saying again, these feuds they look out of place. But now let me read the matches.
Yeah, because the pay-per-view matches and the full list of matches are definitely different.
And this is when you will be like, what's this guy doing? Right. So he faces Darby Allin at Full Gear. His first TV match on Rampage, Grand Slam versus Powerhouse Hobbs. And this caused a lot of heat with, I think, you, Math. Again, like, how can this guy who's out of shape just getting back on the bicycle face Powerhouse Hobbs and beat Powerhouse Hobbs clean? And it's not just the aspect of, like, look at Hobbs and look at, 40-something CM Punk.
Hobbs going to get a title soon, bro. Like, this shit don't make no damn sense.
But he beats Hobbs, and he beats Daniel Garcia on Rampage. Then he beats Matt Sydal on Rampage. And I think that was famously the Rampage that beat SmackDown when they were head-to-head. But that was the FS1 SmackDown. But again, so the 3 straight Rampage matches, they were trying to build that show, which basically was his show because the second ever Rampage is when he returns to pro wrestling, his debut in AEW.
You fucking kidding me? Anyway, I'm sorry. I can't.
But again, like, would you agree that it was good that he was facing these young guys, or at least Matt Sydal, someone he had history and chemistry with, to know what to expect?
To
kind of get some more reps in so he can do this and not look so gassed or burnt out, or like, oh, this guy's washed and past his prime.
I think that works on 2 levels, and I think I probably spoke on the latter level I'm going to mention. I think yes, just like anybody you're trying to get off the ground, whether it's a new star that you want to make look like $1 million, or it's someone like Punk who needs to shake the ring rust off, it's good to get those matches in with those young cats that can work. I don't think this necessarily needed to be one of the matches. I don't know, because this did nothing for Powerhouse Hobbs. Getting beat by CM Punk when CM Punk was just on the way up, it made no sense. He GTS'd him, I believe. He did that.
Yeah.
Like, come on, get the fuck out of here. But I think
get the fuck out of.
I think
he had done the team Taz. Remember, he said like send Hobbs, send Stark, send Hook, which gave us the famous send Hook line. And he never worked with Ricky Starks, unfortunately. That would have been a good program.
I understand everything. I don't think. I think there's certain ways to do it. I think him working with a Dax Harwood. Well, those are the types of matches that I liked hearing. The kind of people that made sense in terms of giving CM Punk it's like a hand like Arn Anderson or Bobby Eaton back in the early 90s. Like, they can work and they're going to be able to bump for you and make you look like $1 million, but you're still going to be able to go out on top. It made sense for that versus a fucking Powerhouse Hobbs match. Like, you could have gave me a Dax Harwood CM Punk series. I would have taken that over, this nothing of a W for CM Punk. But
again, it's that he's given Hobbs a big look aspect, right? A TV match against someone like CM Punk, like who's that guy he's facing? I'm saying like that's always their
that's the thought.
When you put someone in, it was like 2004 when they tried to establish Shelton Benjamin as a single star. They had to face Triple H,
right?
Multiple weeks.
It makes sense.
He moves on. All right, then he faces Bobby Fish, which would be funny in the context of things a little bit later on.
Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Faces Eddie Kingston. He faces QT Marshall, Lee Moriarty. They had a good match. Again, that's Lee Moriarty, young up and comer, who's showing you like, oh, this young guy, like he's kind of wrestling circles around this old timer, like, and he had done the Pepsi plunge and just like fucking clothesline the shit out of CM Punk. That was a good match.
Right.
CM Punk, Darby Allin, and Sting versus the Pinnacle, which was Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood, and MJF. That's when Sting had the CM Punk face pain, and CM Punk had like the old school type Sting pain. It was again, that's nostalgia.
I was in the bathroom for the entirety of that match. I did not care. CM Punk, Sting, and Darby Allin is not something I wanted to see.
And that kind of moves into this feud of MJF, where like he faces Wardlow, and this is when I think we get the first of like the Bret Hart callbacks, because this is the match where like he just beats the shit out of CM Punk and wins with the roll up, which everyone like did the side by side of Bret Hart and Diesel, right? They had that same.
I believe
type of, like,
so. Yeah. I'll see if I can find it.
And then CM Punk beat Shawn Spears in 12 seconds the next week. I think he just hits him with the GTS right away, and it's over.
Right.
MJF and CM Punk have that match 38 minutes on Dynamite. Again, this was the one in Chicago where they restarted it after MJF choked him with the tape, which was just that was a stupid thing. I didn't mind that the match kept going. I kind of liked that, but the fact that like you're supposed to choke him with the tape, but then still actually like have the.
It didn't make sense.
It's that old school like this
the
is
choke with the choke with the tape made sense. Once he put the sleeper on him, the tape was no longer choking him, but he was still acting like he was being choked. It made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, but CM Punk hits the fucking Pepsi plunge in this match, the pedigree off the top rope, which is like he hadn't done that in a while. Probably wasn't a good thing for again this man whose body started to break down just 3 months later, in a way. That match I thought was alright. Again, it just drags, but again, it's that MJF.
It wasn't.
No, it was, but it's that slow main event style, like MJF. I don't do high spots and bullshit. I tell stories in the ring match. That's what this match was. Like CM Punk hits a big move. I'm gonna roll out the ring, and he's gonna have to crawl to try to stop me so he can get the cover. Real shit.
And it's stuff that MJF needs. He needs to get those matches in there, regardless of who it's with. He needs those pay-per-view looks.
And then we have CM Punk and Jon Moxley versus FTR. That tag match was good.
I don't remember it. I'd have to go back and look. I was tuning out of CM Punk, so there's a lot of these matches where I'm like,
why? Because everything prior, again, these are all wins until that MJF one I just mentioned. These are all wins.
CM Punk, Powerhouse Hobbs left a bad taste in my mouth. I think the match. Why? On what planet would I believe that was? On what planet would I was to believe that?
This debate again of
if you can show me a match where you like, there has to be some type of believability in there. I know we're suspending our disbelief in terms of the predetermination of the matches and people taking.
And how could Ricochet beat Braun Strowman?
Ricochet.
No. It's the same thing, Cal. Come on.
Listen to me. Ricochet is building momentum. Right? No, it is Ricochet's story because Ricochet just
no. I know, but I'm saying
the week before.
Say, like, look at you're saying look at Hobbs, look at CM Punk. You're not factoring in. I know you're also factoring like this guy's second match in 7 years.
That's a big part.
Guy.
I
that's the whole point of wrestling with I'm an old vet. I know how to beat this bull who's just gonna run, and then I'm gonna do the Olay.
I think it would have probably made more sense to have been Ricky Starks versus CM Punk if you're talking about elevating somebody to be a star. Because what was Hobbs' next matches after that? He wasn't doing shit. He was wild. I don't want to say wilding, but it was like he was just the enforcer. A lot of the time, it was him and Starks.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it did. Like I get that there was a feud with Team Taz, but
no, there wasn't. It's just that week. It was literally just that week.
I feel like there are better ways to display A, CM Punk working somebody over, and B, CM Punk elevating somebody. Like you could arguably say that while it was long and boring, MJF needed to get that match in with CM Punk to be that long, to have that style match. Because in the future, when he has to then be the man leading those matches as a champion, he's already been able to see how the pacing of those matches can go. And that's more beneficial than CM Punk beating Hobbs with the GTS to do nothing in the future. Like I would hope that all of this shit would start to make sense at some point.
No, you're right. And let me call back to what he said that first appearance in AEW. There's a whole lot of young talent in that locker room, and he wanted to be this Harley Race, put them through the paces type figure in this locker room. Like, I need to show these young guys how to wrestle on TV, how to work properly. And we'll get into that next week about these guys being like, fuck off. I don't need your advice. Because that's the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of, you know what? This is where this cranky CM Punk turns his head. Things don't go his way. Shit, he'll start shit.
Right.
But again, the names in these matches are Hobbs, Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, Wardlow, these young guys who I'm going to put these guys through the paces. A name like me, even if I've been away, even if I'm not as good as I was 12 years ago in the ring, I can still teach them how to do this. I can show them how to do that. And, and it seems like always kind of wanted to make other people. There's always kind of that like selfish mindset with the people who want to make others look good, because it shows you how good they are. The Shawn Michaels of the world.
They still have to be on a certain level too. Yeah.
The Bret Harts of the world. Those guys who took pride in making others look good are so selfish and have the biggest egos, because that shows how valuable I am, and how good I am.
Now, mind
I think CM Punk wanted to be in that class. Like,
I think I was.
Ric Flair is the most famous case. I'll show you I'm the best by making this guy look good, and then when he has a match with someone else, you're like, oh, this guy's not good at all.
But I was just reading something where, again, a lot of this shit should be fucking obvious, but I saw a headline where revealed the inspiration behind the Blackpool Combat Club, and it's like, oh, Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, they fashioned it after Jumbo Tsuruya's groups in All Japan in the 90s, where he was, putting the idea is to elevate mid-carders to the top. And you can debate all day on if Wheeler Yuta's been in a much better spot since being in the Blackpool Combat Club, but I don't think he's
not where he should be given how it looks.
He's not where they thought they were elevating him based on.
The first month it was looking good, and since then that feud with the JS has continued to kill that group more than the dynamics within him.
I bring it up.
A whole other thing.
BX, I bring it up because where CM Punk's idea is similar to like Triple H's and HBK, where I need to be on this level. I need to have these titles, and once I have these titles, I can then.
We're getting there a little bit. We're almost getting there, because now it'll get into the point where you really start to see what's on the horizon.
That's what I'm saying. I need to get these titles, and once I have these titles, then I can start putting you all over. Where Blackpool Combat Club was kind of just like, let's just have the fucking matches and just do it all the time. And I think if CM Punk could have been a little bit more minded like that, it could have been more beneficial in the long run. But I think because of his status in terms of the world of pro wrestling, it makes sense to shoot him up there. But maybe it could have been a little bit more done a little slower, better paced, slower paced.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, he beats these guys. He gets the revenge on MJF in the dog collar match at Revolution. Right. Then he has that match with Dax Harwood, which all you Bret Hart marks just like, oh my god, the callbacks. Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that was a good match. That was a really good match.
No offense to the Brian H. Waters or the Drews or the Meanies or the Dax Harwood contingent. I would say the other subsect of Bret Hart marks is I was more on the Bret Hart, but the Dax Harwood is great as a singles wrestler. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! Like, next thing, he's not even good as a no.
Let me find the image of that match. That was a really good match, Dax Harwood. And I'm not even like the biggest FTR fucking mark at all, but the Dax Harwood as a solo wrestler. I was going to grab this one image. Let me get this image.
But he has that match, and again, that's the match where dude is wearing the Nation crew neck on the hard cam.
The guy we never got to.
No. Well, no, not me and I. All right, Black John Studd tries to take credit, but I recognized him.
You saw him first.
Black John Studd says, "Aren't you the man?"
I talked to the guy.
Looking for you.
I talked to him in the DM.
Junior, I believe is his name. Yeah.
And I think he's a fairly busy person, and we never. So we probably should.
But no, in that match is when I'm looking in the match. I'm like, what? That's not no. And then I rewind and cut back. Yeah. Dax Harwood. No, I'm just saying Dax Harwood. Oh, God. When we do the episode about wrestlers I hate, and I just fucking bury these. Dax. It's nothing personal. It's just as the wrestler, like.
The thing is, I like Dax the wrestler. I don't care about any of that other stuff. Dax in the ring, especially in these types of singles matches.
Listen, you can throw a bunch of chops and try to be like, I'm hard hitting. And I ain't quitting. Like, no.
That's what I grew up on, man.
Then he faced Max Caster. And Max Caster, again, is someone who's now, I think, would probably have a better match.
I remember that match.
That one wasn't as good. But I think Max Caster now has kind of found his footing with Anthony Bowens in the Acclaim now that they've been on the rise. And they each kind of know their spots within the team. But Max Caster as a singles wrestler isn't there yet. Maybe one day. I think he has the charisma and the mic skills to get there. But the in-ring work still needs some more development. But
yeah.
And then we get into the match that pissed off. Again, you, Keeks, a bunch of other people. I was a little bit disappointed too because this was like, all right, if you want to show that you can hang and carry these young guys and these stars of today, then this match needs to be good. And that was him versus Penta, and it wasn't as good as I thought it was. And this is to me where I'm starting to realize, this is CM Wash. Like it's the best days are behind him.
Tried to tell you this motherfucker. Come on. Look at Penta. Come on. I'm supposed to believe this. Also, look at his face. Yeah, come on. Anyway, I'm sorry. I can't. I can't.
There's that great spot where he tries to hit him with the GTS. Penta catches it and then does the Sarah meow right in his face.
Right in his face, yeah. I hate that.
Yeah, and then the next week he has a match with Dustin Rhodes, and that's another so many Bret Hart callbacks. I think that one went 17 minutes. And what world would we need a 17-minute match with?
No.
The natural Dustin Rhodes against CM Punk, and this is, I think we're starting to see him and his ego take over the show.
Right.
Kind of taking over that, like a large amount of the show is kind of dedicated to him on the mic or him in the ring.
Right.
Again, a nothing match with Dustin Rhodes just to set up. I think that was the first week where he says, like, I'm challenging for the AEW World Title. Like that's what I want. I've been racking up these wins. The writings again, it's been lingering the whole time. Like this guy just has only lost one match. Like now, like shouldn't he be in title contention? He beats John Silver. That's when he does the infamous buckshot lariat where he fucks up. It would get much worse in the match with Hangman Page, but he beats Hangman Page at Double or Nothing. And what do you think of him versus Hangman Page? I already watched it. It was rough. It was rough.
It's again what I was talking about earlier. The idea of this shit is cool until the moment where CM Punk's really got to get in there with one of their head, because Page ain't no joke.
No,
you know.
That's when you watch that match, like fuck, this guy's amazing. Like
Page came into Page may have been a little rough in terms of figuring out him as a total package.
The Hangman with the noose.
It's too
not
much.
A good visual, but it did steer him into the direction of like, you know what, I'm just gonna be Hangman the Cowboy.
Right. And when I would see again going back to like that confrontation up there with the two of them, or the two of them in the ring, I'm look like CM Punk can talk all the shit he wants, but it's like Page is AEW. Like that's what I would assume AEW would be bringing me, and I just knew it based off of the matches we had seen. Punk's best matches were with people that were fucking good.
Yeah.
Some arguably better than others, and maybe on my bias meter. But I think this was going to be the show improve. If Punk couldn't step up and roll with an Adam Page, it's going to be a much harder road for him down the line. And it was a much harder road for him after that match.
Penta showed him like, this guy can't hang with the stars of right now because these guys want to go all out all the time on TV, on pay-per-view. If they had live events, they probably would, because that's their style. So, and someone like Darby Allin's close to that, but Darby Allin's also smarter. Where like my best aspect is selling,
right?
But also like I'm going to crash my body into everything so you can regain the advantage in the match. That's why that match works so well too. All the other matches in between, it's like yes, no in terms of how good they were. Dax Harwood again, someone who's willing to slow it down with CM Punk because he is too fond of that old school style where like we barely run the ropes. It's just all about hitting moves, holds. One of us might go up to the second rope for something. It's real life.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I it was what I knew was going to happen when I was first skeptical about CM Punk going to AEW, because you have to go up against those real deal thoroughbreds, and if Punk isn't on that level, you can't talk your way out of an amazing match. You have to go in there ready to fucking bang and work, especially with a Page or the Bucks or an Omega, and
this is the company that prides itself on the wrestling, and for him to be their champion now, it kind of gave you the hope of like, this feels like a WWE thing. Like, you mean to tell me that Goldberg can come back and be Universal Champion? Like,
yeah, how about that? It felt like I don't want to. It's funny because Punk was.
Go ahead. I think you're about to say what I'm thinking.
Because Punk was the archetype of what AEW would be, and then when he gets there, and it's almost the antithesis of what AEW was supposed to be. But that's on realizing how he's working in this environment and what works for him versus what works in that environment. And it wasn't him. Wasn't. It clearly wasn't him, because he was beefing with Kenny Omega, the Bucks, like all of the people that mattered for that style of wrestling and had fucking executive vice president in front of their name at the company. Those are the people that he had animosity to. A lot of the reasons why because the backstage talk about Adam Page is going to be for next week anyway. But I think I feel for many,
it doesn't help when there's this backstage talk, and when it gets down to in the ring, you're not able to hold up your end. Where this is a dance. Both have to know the moves for it to be considered great.
That's why I think, and I'm just stick a pin in the thought of the frustration of CM Punk probably started around the time of this Adam Page stuff. You know what I mean? Going on in the ring, plus the stuff going on outside of what's going on in the ring. I don't know. I don't want to say he saw the tide turning, or maybe he felt like he was not up to par at that time. But if you were to ask me to guess, I would assume it would be around that time earlier this year, because it's he was riding high. Now he's champion. How soon was it before he got injured?
That's what we'll get into. It's after this match, he and FTR face the Gun Club and Max Caster, but right before the match starts, he jumps into the crowd like he did in that first dance. He injures his foot when he jumps off the top rope for a double axe handle, and that's the wrap. That's it right then and there. He has to vacate the title, but he'll be interim champion. He shows up. I should have sent you the video. He shows up in Minneapolis. Me and my father were in the building. My father, with a look of just like, as this guy comes out, I'm hyped. CM Punk is back to win the AEW title. He never loses. But what do? They book him and Jon Moxley one-on-one before the pay-per-view. Why? I don't know. It didn't make any sense. They do they do the story like his foot wasn't healed because he tries the kick and he goes, and then Jon Moxley just like DDTs him once, DDTs him again, and then it's like that's it. And then
I don't want to say that I'm so prophetic, but my assumption, I feel like it was right, because that same night, then they also announced that Thunder Rosa had gotten injured and she was going to be. They were going to be. They announced it.
It's around that time.
I think it was supposed to be Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm at the pay-per-view or whatever.
A rematch potentially, yeah.
And they instead did the fatal four-way for the interim title. I think because they were already it was already interim AEW World Championship. I think they felt it was going to be that. I think they felt it was going to also be weird to have AEW Women's Interim Championship information at the same time. So what they did was they had Moxley beat Punk on the night where everybody thought that CM Punk was too injured to wrestle anyway, to then set up for the big rematch at the pay-per-view. But I think it was because they didn't want the TV show to be everything is interim for our two major.
Well, don't get me started on the Thunder Rosa thing, because her actions.
Have
shown that maybe there shouldn't have been an interim to begin with.
I kind of just wish that Toni Storm had gotten that indication before the Jamie Hayter stuff had happened, because she really, but in that time, she was working.
Oh no, she was, and that's why I'll give Tony Khan credit for this, is that he won't bury his people. If anything, he'll step in front of the bullets for them, because there's no way that Toni Storm should be considered an official AEW champion based on how interim works. But he says, I write the rules here, you're a champion. So credit to him for doing that. But this is also what happens when you let the inmates run the asylum, which we'll get into with this, because after CM Punk loses to Jon Moxley in this one-on-one match, and then they set up the match for All Out, and this man gets injured within 6-7 minutes of the match.
Very quickly.
And that was, again, like, the scrum happens. There's a report that he's going to have to miss time anyway because he fucked up his elbow, his triceps, and it's like it's at this point, why even come back? But there is such great. That's the big, like, no, put that image up, because look at I almost wanted to start it off like this. I mean, look at how it starts, how it's going, and where we're at. Yeah, right. Like, look, they got their ice cream bars right in front. He finally gave the people the ice cream bars. Look how happy Tony Khan is. He's the man that brought CM Punk back to wrestling. And then in the middle, it's like CM Punk is finally the champion. He got his main event.
Happy.
This is like the future is bright for us. And then it's like Tony Khan, as soon as like this, he starts uttering these words about Scott Colton and this empty-headed fuck Hangman Page and these idiots who think they're in Reseda who couldn't manage a fucking target. And he's just like, "What have I done? The call is coming from inside the house. Like."
Look at the way Tony's looking at you right there. It's funny.
That's why I picked these three images because look at how again he's like, yeah,
evolution. He's so like
he's realizing what Vince McMahon, what Triple H, what everyone's had gone through.
That WWE. First image is like, I'm so excited. This second was like, look, guys, you see how amazing things are going.
Life is good.
This one, like,
it's like
his hair is. He's not cut his hair. He's got all this facial hair. He's got like it. He's all dressed up. He's got a hoodie on. Like it's so much. And the evolution of Punk in these is funny as hell too. Look at the anyway, man. It's a night. Had to be a nightmare.
Yeah, he's like he's with his head. He's like, it's good to be back. And then him with the title, like, I finally have what I've been wanting. It's the title. It's the main event spot. It's I'm wrestling. And then the third is this deranged man. It didn't help that the mics were wired poorly or whatever it was because he sounded like the devil. Like he sounded like so drunk, which is we know he's not because he had those fucking like seltzers or whatever they were like.
He just pounded fucking seltzers.
And then he's like, I'm gonna eat, and then I'm gonna like. Then he's like, "Let me tell you about Scott Colton." And I'm like, "Oh my!" Thank God he's not talking about Davis Colton because I'm like,
Drip got pissed because he heard his last name.
Again, so out of all these matches, name 3 good matches. I know you're gonna say Dax
Harwood. I'm gonna say the Punk and Allin Darby because I liked the way Punk felt like what I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
That older vet who understands these people but is still going to try and school them. For a third, yuck. It's neither of the Moxley matches. Am I going to...
The final 7 minutes of that Moxley match is really good, though. I will say I thought that at the time when I rewatched it this morning, it is really good when like they're telling like how is this going to end. It's really well told.
I gotta look at this list one second.
I would say it's the Darby Allin match. The one of Eddie Kingston's all right. It's kind of like that Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar match from WrestleMania 31, where it's just like we're just gonna beat the shit out of each other. Like it doesn't like we might only do like 8 moves total, but it's just about like intensity.
Yeah, maybe the Moriarty. It may be the Eddie Kingston. That may be my third. I'm gonna say Darby Allin, Dax Harwood, Eddie Kingston.
I do think that MJF match is good. Aside from the rope bullshit, I do like how it progresses, and again, that's you can tell like the escalation of like MJF the whole time, just like. Oh God, he does like his best Ric Flair, like, oh God, how can I keep going when like CM Punk kicks out or like when the match has to restart?
No, I would that would probably be my 4th or 5th. It's definitely I think top 5 of his time in AEW. That particular match, not the other one.
But again, this was the guy who prided himself on being this amazing worker. I mean, him and he gave John Cena his best match until John Cena started to kick up his work rate. But that CM Punk in the way was the catalyst for that at Money in the Bank 2011. No, I'm saying like because Johnson then starts to have great matches. Kevin Owens, Bryan Daniels, Daniel Bryan. I mean AJ Styles.
AJ, yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Not that he did before, but that was kind of like the real signature one where like there's a pre-Money in the Bank John Cena and a post, and the post is like that guy is like starting to work because he posts that he's like I'm gonna do a fucking springboard stunner for no fucking reason, and people are like the fuck's he does a code red like. But obviously, man, you missed 7 years. You can't be the guy you were 7 years ago. Can you do things you did 7 years ago physically?
No. And I knew he wasn't ready. He around my age. He's a little older, but I knew he wasn't ready.
Yeah. But what about the mic skills?
He could still talk, and that's the thing. I think.
So is that what sold the matches being like disappointed? Like, this guy's doing a good job building that, but like when it comes to the belts, like I know what to expect. It's
I think
plotting, it's dragging.
I think the thing is regardless of how you feel about CM Punk, you can't say he can't talk. Like that man can talk, and I think a lot of what I enjoyed about that run. What like even the first day he comes back, I was sitting there, I was keeping my words to myself on the timeline, but I was still watching the show. You know, his return speech, you have to watch it. But A, I think it was a lot of that. B, I think outside of the stories like MJF, where there was like he was really good in the back and forth with MJF, and a very good dance partner. But
however,
I think
that first one with MJF is great when MJF's like, you're not the CM Punk of old. You're the guy who's like, I'm happy to be here in insert town.
Exactly.
It's great to be in AEW and face insert young wrestler. Like,
because he was doing that Mick Foley shit for a little bit.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And that's why early on, there were like moments where like, oh, God, has this guy lost a step or two?
That was his baby face. That was him returning as a baby face.
But the thing is, like, prior to the MJF feud, he has the feud with Eddie Kingston. Again, Eddie Kingston's the one's like, this is all an act.
Yeah.
Why are you tricking everyone thinking like you're so humble and happy to be here and la la la? And then like he has this feud with MJF, and you know they go back and forth, and the feud of Hangman Page is a guy who, again, post another young guy feud is like, listen, I see feud. There's now some tenure in this guy being here, right. And now everyone's starting to see and getting fed up like what he's done or what he will go on to do in a way. So Hangman Page seemed determined to like, I'm going to call out this guy right now. So when shit does happen,
y'all know
someone will have said it. And it's not just the Eddie Kingston who has the baggage with the guy. It's this guy who's never interacted with him before and has seen what he's doing and like what he will go on to do. It's like stopping the war before it can happen.
I feel you.
And that was the point of like their feud on the mic was Hangman Page being like, you talk about this and that, and we'll get again. Was Colt Cabana banished? He definitely fucking was banished because why do you bring him back for 1 week and never like why has he not been on Dynamite since? Huh? That's next week. But
that's funny.
I did watch him on the mic, and a lot of it is just like, oh God. And I don't blame him. I bet he was happy to be back after being gone for 7 years and having again the passion stomped out of him in a way from the Vince McMahons and the Triple H's, and
of course to get that reception and be able to win a title and do I guess what he said he was going to do in terms of putting young cats on. Yeah, that probably felt great. Mm-hmm. It probably wasn't as great as it felt in the long run. It may again we'll talk. We'll pick this up next week and I think get into more of the
because the best stuff next week was it worth it. But the best stuff next week is all the drama, and maybe that's being a fortunate part of CM Punk overall, right? Is that because he has to be him, which is he has to be so real, does everything not matter? You know what I mean? That there is no character because this guy has to shoot. He has to tell the truth.
Yeah, I think that, but it kind of, that's really dependent on the person, right? Like, because at the end of the day, if that means nothing, if like being a shooter on the mic means nothing to you, then, you know, who cares if he's going out there and he's, you know, giving you the tea on the inside shit or whatever. Like, you know, I just want to see him wrestle Dax Harwood or fucking, you know, Darby Allin or whatever. Like, you know, and if on the flip side, and again, this would be a good spot to end on. If he's going in as the guy who's supposed to be the on his face, I'm gonna help what's going on in the industry. I'm gonna try and mold these guys and turn them into people that could be like me. He can't then on the other side be talking shit in ring, you know, dropping these little things that are kind of a little more inside and stirring that pot, and then being the OG, but also being the one who's in there, you know, with his spoon, making sure that the shit is all crazy. It's again, that's a conversation that we'll pick up next week, but it's interesting to see him be, I mean, if to some the instigator, sometimes a ring leader. It really depends on how you look at it.
It came to me today like he is the modern age TV star. He is the anti-hero. He is the am I a bad man? I want to do good things, but I ultimately do things that hurt others and hurt myself. But it's again like these guys at the center of the show aren't the heroes,
right?
They're the villains.
And
at times they will acknowledge themselves as villains once they're finally hit in the face with it, but they still want to be the hero. And I think that was and is him, and will always be him, unfortunately. Because I said, all this stuff in the ring can be great, and he can give the Undertaker his best match that he had at WrestleMania 29. He can have a great match with Darby Allin. He can try to hang with Pentagon. He can try to hang with Hangman Page, but it's like your skill in this age is you. It's the character that you created, the guy who said, I'm going to leave this company like Brock Lesnar left this company.
Right.
I'm going to take this title and go to Ring of Honor because I know what that is, and they don't want me to acknowledge that it exists. I'm going to give John Cena his best match. I'm going to carry this title for 400 days. I'm going to walk out because I should be here, and I'm here. I mean, even though my work here is better than anyone's here, which is why he wanted to leave after The Miz was champion. He's like, you're going to put that guy who couldn't lace my boots, which was the MJF pipe bomb, right? That's why that feud worked when MJF was like, you want to hire all these ex-WWE guys to come in, but you're keeping me at one level when I'm better than this guy and that guy and that guy.
I think the thing is, the villain looks better on MJF than it does on CM Punk. While you're right, he's a villain.
I think the opposite. CM Punk, the good guy, again. This whole I'm happy to be, and where are we tonight? Where are we tonight?
But what I'm saying is, CM Punk is a villain that wants to be a hero, and that's not good. MJF is a villain who, outside of what everybody else thinks, knows that he's a villain, and he's going to play that role to the utmost that he can, because that's what works. CM Punk being the shit stirrer on the inside, especially backstage, while trying to be fucking Batman, old Batman at this point, it clearly didn't work. His legs was all fucked up, his arm was fucked up, and nobody liked him. They bounced him the fuck out. Like whatever formula he had as the OG in the locker room, the guy, the anti-Undertaker, whoever thought he was supposed to be. Again, we'll get into a lot of this next week, but it didn't work because he's the one that, with the reports say, he's anticipating to be on to his next endeavor whenever AEW's ready. Like, he's ready to get the fuck out. This experiment was awful. Again, and it's over.
Cal, we just covered. It's 1 year, 23 matches.
Right.
Like, would you have thought that going in when he came back that day? Like, we're gonna get 23 matches.
The way CM Punk fans was talking about CM Punk when he was about to be here, I figured he would have been on top today. He probably still would have been on top if he hadn't fucked up the game. But I figured it would have been. I wasn't expecting him to get scrummed the fuck out. His man's biting on Kenny Omega and somebody kicking his dog and shit. Like, I didn't see that in the 2022 pro wrestling bingo at all. But I like you said, I'm not surprised. He's probably Sammy Jenkins. He may be the real fucking what's my man's name? Leonard. He may be the real Leonard. He's got all them tattoos. Who knows if that's him trying to remember his stilo? But that's an interesting one. That's interesting.
And I don't think they were wrong to make him champion. I think it was necessary, like how making Chris Jericho champion was necessary. Let's put a mainstream guy with a ton of popularity, a ton of, I don't want to say, he did have success as champion, but like, even though the ratings wouldn't show that, but the ratings I'm saying in WWE when he was champ, like the ratings started to decline then to where like they'll try to make a big deal of the ratings now, where like it doesn't matter, like cable isn't what is, and that's the whole debate. Like
situation,
the business of people wanting to come to your show with him as champ or buy your merchandise and eyes on the product, all that, they had to capitalize on that, and they waited, which was smartly said. Like, face QT Marshall. No one wants to see you face QT Marshall, but you got to get reps in. You got to reestablish yourself. You got to build the foundation. So when you are champ, in a way, it's justified because you didn't show up right away and make yourself champion. And it's the same thing that Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and the Young Bucks had to do. Where like they had to wait a while before they were champions in the company. And when they finally did, it was like, all right, it's about time. And then his ended shortly because in a way he was cursed. It all comes back to he jumps into the crowd his first night in, and then some random day in the summer he jumps into the crowd, and that's it.
Yeah, fucked everything.
It's maybe he was jinxed. Maybe
you said he was cursed. I think he did it to himself. But in a
way, I think we can get into it next week.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to table something. But maybe that's where we could pick up. Was it fate? Was he fated, or was this something that he did to himself? Was he the one that moved the pieces on the board to make it? Because I feel like CM Punk screwed CM Punk.
But like watching him have these matches, it's like when I see guys who I got to see play college football and are still in the NFL now, I'm like, damn, this guy was the man a few years ago. And it's like when you kind of still see him around, like, damn, he's still around. Like it's not even like that. It was just like, oh man, you should have seen this guy in his prime. And probably even in WWE, people were like, you should have seen this guy in Ring of Honor. Like that was the sight to behold. But to see him in this phase of AEW, it wasn't as horrible as like the Undertaker's last run in the 2010s, where it's just like, God, get this guy off the screen, put him in the home already. Like, come on. But it did have, again, its moments of Darby Allin and Dax Harwood, but it did have its like Pentas and Hangman Pages. Like, you really still want to do this? Like, it's people probably, I think they did say that, like, go home, be a family man. Like,
facts. Take your ass home. Chill out with hopefully WoW is doing this thing. Help your lady out. Help her put on a stellar pro wrestling.
Oh, Cal froze for a second. But while Cal regroups, this has been part 1 of seeing.
Get it together, Cal.
Oh my! Fam, you have to. So Cal's the closing producer. Bring in the closer. But this has been part. What should we call this? I've been trying to think of a clever name. Again, you're a writer. You're a better writer than I ever could be. You were good. When he came up with "Don't Believe His Lies," that was good. What was this? Like, is he?
If there's not a remember Sammy Jenkins type flip there, remember CM Punk is, I don't know. There's something there. If somebody could Photoshop Punk or Sammy,
I kept trying to.
That'd be funny.
But this is, like I said, part 1. Part 2 will be next week, and then I think we might do a postscript episode in terms of like all this stuff we talked about this year, in terms of like how that's looked. There's some topics, but that might be our end of the year type show, because we'll be doing a best of show with Black Rasslin Proper, and I'll be doing the entertainment stuff at Banks vs. Davis, which you can watch live every Sunday on YouTube, Banks vs. Davis Patreon. But like I said, Black Rasslin Proper live every Thursday night on YouTube. Shout out to Mimi, shout out to Fam, shout out to Cal, shout out to Drip, shout out to Matt.
He shouted himself out. You hear that shit?
Yeah, imagine if I just started talking to myself in the third person now.
I shout out to Drip.
What if I did? Drip doesn't like that, Cal. Drip.
You would if you started talking like
you
that.
You think would I be fully gone? You think
your mic would be muted just like that? I don't think we can handle that at all. We would have to figure something else out. But talking to the third person is crazy. Anyway.
That's why I don't know how The Rock could do it, but again, he was Dwayne Johnson playing The Rock. I'm Davis playing Drip.
You would have to talk like that all the time to make sure you kept that up.
That's what I'll be doing in the next 6 days until the next White Night.
We will be muted that entire show. Is there any more shout outs we got to do?
Anything we got something else live every Wednesday on YouTube. Bam, Lily LeVeaux. I don't think we should spoil, plus I don't know who will be up next, but Kenny King was this past week's episode. Run that back. We've had
there's a good episode this week. This week is a good episode. Next week is a good episode too. It's always a good episode. But they're not ready for this week. I
don't think they're ready for any week, to be honest. Kenny King, Willie Mack. We've interviewed in terms of Black Rasslin Proper. We interviewed Chris Bay. A number of X Division champions have been interviewed by Black Rasslin. Like you said last week, we interviewed 3 Bullet Club members, or 3 people who had Bullet Club ties at some point. But
on the low, Shane Taylor was just on AEW TV the other night. That's a friend of the pod at this point. We go Patreon.com/Black Rasslin, YouTube.com/Black Rasslin.
Bulls in the China Shop. You just said the last episode was crazy. I hope people check that out. Black Rasslin Podcast Club with you and Math and Amelia Sparks at times.
We'll figure out the Black Rasslin Podcast Club is just me reacting to shit right now, but we'll figure that out.
Turnbuckle Talk every Tuesday on Twitter Spaces with me and Corey.
True.
Kickstart My Fix and White Noise. Patreon. Who knows if the stuff from the beginning of the episode will be left in? If it is, it's only on Patreon. So if you're watching this on YouTube, pay the $1, pay the $10 to see stuff that's cut out last week. Like I said, we had a run-in by the Black Rasslin Entertainment CEO, that piece of shit.
Jesus Christ. I didn't math. That was him. I didn't say that shit.
But yeah, I'm on Twitter at Davis, aka Drip. Instagram, Davis Colon DC. Khal, what about you?
At Khal on Twitter, at Black Rasslin on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Black Rasslin anywhere. Just search that shit up on Google. We out here. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure if you want to pay the $1, you could pay the $1, you could pay the $10. We're gonna be announcing who's gonna be winning the $200 cash this week on the pod in the cold open. So
oh my god, it's Big Mike! Wow, I can't believe. Imagine if he wins the $200.
That's Big Mike. Your name is getting taken out because of what I was kidding. But no, we'll see what happens. Tune into the cold open. We out. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick.